Hey guys, this is Tanner Cartwright. I'm here with Jerry Dorris. We are here for Snake on the Table. Jerry, what is our snake this morning?
Yes, this morning,
Early
bro.
Morning. It's the first time we've done this at 5 a.m.
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. trying to get it done. We record after work. This morning we're doing it before work. We had a catastrophic failure on some of our episodes.
Very sad.
We lost 2 hours worth of recording, and so we're recovering from that. But so today's topic is a follow up to the last one that we did.
Yep.
This is, what does it mean to be feminine?
Yeah.
And I've been looking forward to this one for a while here.
So, as I did at the what does it mean to be masculine, I want to read from the 1828 Webster's Dictionary. And just as a note, it's good to have an old dictionary. You don't have to have a hard copy, but I would encourage everyone to have an old dictionary because they're changing the meaning of words now. And as it's been said many times, a lot of our battle with the culture right now is a battle over words and definitions. So, feminine. So it starts out by laying out basically that woman is, the word woman is the idea of womb plus man. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's where the words come from, and it goes through. It's got a thing here. I won't read all of it.
I think people should be shocked by that.
Well, I mean, it makes perfect sense.
We've lost that whole understanding in our people. I want to be a woman. You can't be
womb man
plus man.
Womb man. So literally, what the word means is that's why the cup here. But so number one, it says pertaining to a woman or to women or to females as the female sex. So what does it mean to be feminine? Well, it pertains to women. So what does that mean? It says soft, tender, delicate. As an example, it gives a sentence that says, her heavenly form, angelic, but more soft and feminine. Number three is effeminate, which means destitute of manly qualities. So to be feminine is to be destitute of manly qualities. And then it goes on to talk about the grammar and stuff. But just mainly, I think right there, soft, tender, delicate is the catalyst. So I think just like with what it means to be masculine, we said that we could boil it down to being hard. When it comes to being feminine, I think you can boil it down to being soft.
Yeah. I would just, you said the word effeminate. I know many people, as I've deployed effeminate, that he's effeminate.
Yeah.
And we use that in terms of men. And I think there have been women that have thought that is a pejorative. To call basically you're calling a man a woman, that's using a woman or womanliness as a pejorative. And it is in that context, but it is not wrong for a woman to be a woman.
Yeah.
It's never wrong for a woman to be a woman or to be effeminate. I mean, she should be.
Yeah.
That's by nature who she's designed to be. She should be soft. She should be, those particular ways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if one of my brothers told me I was acting like a woman, I would be insulted.
Yeah.
But if my brothers told my wife she was acting like a woman,
right.
Yeah, it's not always an insult. It's an insult when you're not in the category
if you should be a woman, it's good to be feminine.
Yes.
But it's not in the other context. And that's been something that I know some people have had to kind of wrestle with.
Yes.
Because they're not used to hearing being a woman used as a pejorative.
Yes.
And so we actually use that a lot. We call a lot of men in the pastorate are very effeminate. That's another snake that's coming up. Is the church has the church been feminized? Is something we want to look at. So let's just talk about soft for a little bit as opposed to masculine. So soft being in their demeanor, their words, their not soft in terms of unprincipled, or a pushover or those kind of things, because I think you want a woman that understands the scriptures and knows and is a principled woman. And so in that regard, she's firm. If some of the ladies of our church we would point to say they really know the scriptures and they are so principled and they hold us to account. But they're
going to be soft in the way that they apply those. They're going to be soft in the way that even in the way that they are firm, like the way that they're firm in their convictions, it's still going to come across as feminine and soft.
Yeah, I can think of several people that, like even in our business meetings or something like that, where we were actually inviting conversation, stuff like that. I have found a lot of the ladies that are very principled, they would much rather come to us privately.
Oh yeah,
and say, hey, I'm concerned about this, and the even the way they approach us is with a heart. It's a softer heart.
Yes.
Desire to honor.
Because they're feminine. Yeah, we've got a church full of feminine ladies.
Yes, we really do.
We're really blessed.
Yeah.
But yeah, just thinking about my wife. My wife is a woman of convictions. Years ago when I fell into the charismatic kind of camp for a year and a half, my wife never bought it. Like she never bought into it. She followed me. Yeah. She submitted to me, and we went to the church and all this stuff. And but she never felt right to her, and she never bought in. And so she was firm in that, but also feminine. Yeah, she was uncompromising on what she believed, but at the same time, she followed me. She was soft. She was never fought me about it.
I think one of the appeals of feminism is that it appeals to the strong woman, or for a woman to be strong. And they think that in order to be heard, I must follow this path of being a feminist. And then they end up denying how God has made them. God has intentionally made them soft. Yes. They're soft physically. They are soft in their demeanor. And we'll talk more about some of the areas that falls under. But the appeal of feminism is that for a woman to be strong, she must have equal footing with a man. But there are feminine ways to show that strength. There's a dignity that a woman carries herself with that is very strong. Yeah, well, very powerful.
Yeah, when women try to be men, it doesn't work out well. No. Like at the end of the day, they're screeching, bawling feminists, and no one's listening to them, and no one cares, and they're just a tire that needs the brakes changed.
Honestly, it's for lack of a better word, I'll make one up. I don't know if it's a word, but uglification. When a woman pursues masculinity, she's becoming more ugly. The coarser and harder she becomes, the more combative and aggressive, she's actually pushing away how God has made her, and she's becoming ugly. Yep. And I don't mean necessarily physically attractive. Get something in your face. Physically attractive.
It is physically.
It is.
It does affect that. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. An effeminate man is ugly. A butch woman is ugly. Yeah. It just is what it is.
They used to say there's nothing more unattractive in a woman than she's smoking a cigarette or something. That's such a masculine thing, you know what I mean? Or smoking a pipe or something stupid like that. Yeah. Anyway, so I think there's a soft way that women, that softness, that feminine qualities, which we're really not qualifying here. You could, you'd mentioned the last one about Dr. Ork asking for qualities. If we were to sit down and say just objectively, what would you say about women?
In general.
Yeah, and people would write certain things down that showcase what a woman looks like. I mean, I think young men especially inherently are looking for women that are feminine.
Distinctly feminine.
They're feminine. Yeah. And femininity shows up in the way that physically, in a way, a woman wears her hair, the clothing that she wears, even the makeup and stuff. Yeah. I don't think makeup's necessary to look feminine, but it's certainly ways that do that. And I think men are attracted to that, and they're actually repulsed by the androgynous look and the things. Yeah. And I know we want to talk later about modesty. That's a big topic that we want to talk about. And how
we've got several
dress
snakes
and how
on
women
that,
dress.
Yeah.
But we've identified, just like we did with the men, we identified 3 basic areas that make a woman uniquely a woman. I mean, a man. Now we're going to think about a woman. So what are those 3 areas?
So those would be, so for men, it was leader, provider, protector.
Right.
For a woman, it's helper, nurturer, and life giver.
Right.
Those are the 3 that are distinctly what women are called to and what they're made for. Yeah. Just as we talked about with the men, it's not just what the roles that we've been given to play, it's actually what we're made for. Right. So you think about womb plus man, women are made to give life. Right. It's what they're made for. Now, some don't. we live in a fallen world, and it's horrific and sad. But some women can't have children, but that doesn't negate the point that women are made to have children. Women are made to give life.
Yeah, that's that third one. Let's walk through those together. Let's talk about being a helper.
Yeah.
But just as we think about it, men are made to lead. They've been given certain qualities instinctively, inherently, that they command. They are to lead and rule. Men are made to rule. Which is a triggering statement, unfortunately, in our culture. And women are meant and made to follow and to be a helper.
Yep.
And I think that's important for us to recognize that is a distinction regardless of children, regardless of station, place. This is how they have been made, and it's something that they should embrace.
Yep.
And so let's dive into it.
Well, we just see it. I mean, you see it in the first pages of Genesis, and God made, and this is what Paul points back to when he's asked about, women in leadership in the church and these types of things. He said, no, women should remain silent in church because God made Adam first, then he made Eve.
Yeah.
And Adam was not deceived, but Eve was. And so he goes back to creation. And so we see God making Adam and bringing him and putting him in the garden and giving him the mandate to take dominion, to have authority over all things. And then he realizes he needs a helper. And I love that God gives Adam enough time to feel that need for a helper. And then God comes and takes from Adam's own body and makes him a helper that would be one flesh with him. And so Paul points back to it. Adam's made first, and the woman is brought to the man in order to help the man. He's brought to the earth in order to take dominion. She's brought to the man. So there's an inherent role of being a helper built into a woman. It's designed by God. She's made to be a helper. She's not made to have her own careers, her own, identity. Okay, that's going to offend some people, but my wife's identity is me. When we got married, the minister said, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Tanner Cartwright.
Right.
She took on my identity. She left her father's name, which she had been given at birth, and she took on my identity. And so,
so much of the symbolism in weddings and all that is
it's
just
beautiful.
lost on but it's beautiful, but it's lost on our culture.
Oh yeah,
and they don't recognize why we do that. Why that was
100%.
That there is a unified mission.
Now the feminists do.
Yeah,
the feminists do, because this is why, they don't want their father giving them away. Well, I'm not cattle.
Yeah,
they don't want to take their husband's last name. It's like, oh, well, you got your grandfather's or your father's last name. It's like you can't get away from it.
Yeah, you don't want to do it in a church. You don't want to have the symbology and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to be presented as Mr. and Mrs. And the husband's name. So we do marriage counseling. We have different people that we've walked through, and I would say, and I think you would agree with me, that a lot of tension happens in the home when a wife brings in a competing mission to her husband into the home. And so when they don't have a unified vision that she is the helper, she is to follow his lead, that causes conflict in the marriage.
Yep.
And in our culture, it actually creates this phenomenon, because from a young age, women they're being challenged to think about what they want to be and all this kind of stuff, which they're going to have these aspirations, they're going to pursue these kind of things, but eventually the reality is, unless they've completely denied their biology and their internal desires, they're going to marry somebody. And they're going to have a child.
Yep.
And it's just the nature of things that she will have to give up that career path in order to raise children. And so she often feels like, I've sacrificed so much. I have given up so much. And the problem is that she's had her sights set upon the wrong goal.
Yeah.
And so she actually is being forced by nature to pursue the right mission in life, which is to produce babies and to support her husband, and she's forced into that, and she feels like she's been put down.
Yeah, or she's waited too late. Frankly, there's a huge a movement now. I don't know if it's a movement, but if you go on TikTok or Instagram, you can literally find thousands of videos of women that are in their mid-30s weeping
Just regret.
because they've been lied to.
Yeah.
They regret and they didn't marry. They're not married now. Now they can't find a guy.
Yeah.
They're not young. And so it's not as easy to find a guy. The 35-year-old men are successful and their standards are way higher than the 20-year-olds. And so it's harder to get married. At 35, a woman's fertility just starts tanking.
It
plummets. And so a lot of women are realizing, well, I built this career or whatever, and now I'm going to die alone. Mm-hmm. And it's depression. It's really sad. I've watched quite a few of these videos, and it is incredibly sad. But all that taking us back to the fact that we're fighting with nature. We're warring with nature.
God has made it this way.
You're not going to win.
You're
just not going to win. And so women are made to be helpers. They're made to help their husband. We see this in Paul saying, wives, submit to your husbands as unto the Lord.
Yeah.
Peter says that women are the weaker vessel. And we recognize that there is a reality which that's not just physical. Yeah. They are the weaker vessel. And so they are to be a helper.
You mean it's not just like asserted. In fact, actually is physical. They are physically weaker.
Yes.
They are. Now, let's stop for a second because I want people to recognize that when I say helper, or where the scriptures say helper, rather better, is that that help is like an army. If I'm a warrior and I'm going into battle, I have behind me an army. And we'll talk about nurture and what a wife does, the multiplication that she does. But for me, and I want to introduce a phrase that you've coined. I don't know if you've coined it, but let's just put it out here. And that's a high output woman.
Yeah.
So high output men are just industrious. They're hitting it. They're goal oriented. They're pushing. A high output woman is what we see in Proverbs 31. She's industrious. I would say it's 5 a.m. right now. Yeah. Right now, upstairs, my wife.
I can hear her.
Yeah, she is making elderberry syrup.
Yeah,
and we've been up since 4 a.m. Yeah. That's every day.
Yeah,
and so we get a lot done before most people are up. That's not to toot our horn, but that's.
I think what you're trying to hit on is the idea of help is not a small term. The Holy Spirit's called the helper.
Right.
It's part of the Trinity.
Right.
So when we say helper, we're not using a denigrated term. Like this is not lower.
It's not. Yeah. It's actually a glorious role to be
absolutely glorious.
To be a helper.
Yeah.
So don't think helper means weak.
Yeah.
In terms of what can be accomplished. My wife, like we've been cleaning our yard for the last week, and different things that we're doing. Physically, I'm stronger. So she's asking me to do certain tasks and help her to do certain things and knock stuff out. She has a vision for what she wants to see happen.
Yeah.
And so she's of incredible value to subduing our little yard here that we have in this house that she maintains.
Yeah, and that's not a competition.
No.
She's not like trying to be stronger than you. She just recognizes that she just gets you to do the heavy stuff.
Yeah, and her giftings are different from mine, and she complements my weaknesses. She comes in and she brings strength to where I'm weak. So I need my wife to use her ability to see the room pastorally. She's able to see things that I don't see, and she informs me about them, and she keeps me up to date on certain things. My wife runs all of our finances.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that she's just eating bonbons and sitting back and doing nothing. She's a high output woman.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage all women to pursue being a helper with diligence, because it is a glorious role, and it's in way that God has made them.
Yeah. Now, if you want a good example of what it means to be a helper, go read Proverbs 31.
Yeah.
She's putting us all to shame.
Yeah.
And she's doing that so that her husband can run the city.
Right.
And so
he's in the city gates and she's doing everything.
I've literally heard
buying property
I've literally heard Christian feminist women say things like, well, he's just sitting around the city gates chatting.
Yeah.
Just stupidity. They don't understand what they're talking about, but he's ruling the city. He's in the gates. He's passing judgment. He's a leader. He's a leader in the city. And why is he able to be a leader?
because she's got it.
She's got the house taken care of.
Yeah.
The home, he gets home at night, it's all taken care
We
of.
we use an Italian term in our home. My wife's full Italian, and it's the major domo. Major domo is the domestic. She takes care of everything in the home. She's the boss lady.
She is ruling the home
in this house, and under that category of helper is the issue of companionship. And that God was pretty clear that it's not good for man to be alone. It's not that we just need workers to help us work, but there's this companionship
100%.
that a wife brings to a man, and then together they both have companionship. It's not good for either sex to be alone.
Yeah.
And so to have that rightly ordered home where we clearly acknowledge the leadership of the husband, and we acknowledge the helper role of the wife, the chief confidant, the chief counsel, the one who gets things done. Those two together is a powerful team, and it's bigger than just two people working and doing something together. There is a multiplication that happens when a new household unit is formed. Yeah. What's his name? Toby Sumter calls it like a nuclear reactor. Yeah. So this is they're just dominating and changing culture and doing things that this particular group. Yeah. And that happens with or without children. That happens before children and after children have left the home. Helper and companionship will remain. Yes. And it's a glorious thing.
Yeah, your relationship with your children are to some extent temporary.
Yeah.
I mean, you hope you'll have a relationship with them forever, but
sure.
I mean, they're out of the home. You're not with them all the
time.
Yeah,
they become new units. Units that are producing and
But my relationship with my wife is till one of us dies.
Correct.
And so it's the most important relationship in my life.
Right.
By far. It's more important than my children. It is what it just is.
Yeah.
And it should be. So
the pietists just cringe. What about the Lord? Isn't your relationship with the Lord more important?
Shut up. Shut up. They're not up at 5 watching this.
No, they might be. Not watching it, but certainly
they're doing it quiet time.
They're doing it quiet time.
All right.
So that's helper.
Helper.
And then we would move into nurture.
Yes.
Because I think a woman nurtures even before she has children. Obviously, she's going to nurture her children, but let's talk about nurture for a minute.
So I think we see it in nature really strongly that, and one of the reasons that we keep pointing back to nature, it's in our day we have a problem with people that are biblicist. Mm-hmm. Like they're more than just biblical. It's like everything. If they don't have a verse,
if there's not a verse, it can't be.
Yeah, the coffee's hot. Well, I don't see that in the Bible, brother. And so. You have the people that struggle with that. But when we point to nature, recognize that Paul does the same thing. So that Paul continually points back to nature. Corinthians 11, he says, it's not, man shouldn't have long hair. Even nature teaches us, he says, that women should have long hair, men should have short hair. And obviously that varies per culture, but that's the general principle. And it holds.
Yeah.
In every culture, women have longer hair than men.
Right.
In general. So it's something that nature teaches us. And so nature also teaches us that women are made to nurture. So you see little girls, they love dolls. And of course, the idiots today want to tell us that that's nurture, not nature, that we're teaching them something.
Right.
I'm spanking my daughters if they pick up a truck or something, No, my daughters love babies. I've got pictures of my daughters when they were pretty young, and they would take on their own, their little baby dolls, and like they would help each other tie shawls, do the wraps to hold them. You think of Native American little girls would make dolls out of corn cobs,
right?
And then they would hold them and take care of them, and act like they're nursing them and all this stuff, and that's just inherent to little girls. I never showed my little girls, I never told them any of that.
You send little boys and little girls out to play. And what are they going to do? Boys are going to pick up sticks and make swords and guns.
100%.
And little girls are going to see dolls and see babies.
Yeah.
And there's a desire to nurture.
And they're outliers, and there's slight overlap, but the general, that's always in general. I've got 4 girls and 2 boys and 1 on the way. And I just tell you, in general, I'm not saying that a girl's never going to pick up Tonka truck.
Right.
But in general, my boys are out in the yard for hours with their truck, putting rocks in it and moving it and dumping them.
Yeah.
My girls have never done that.
Yeah.
Not like that.
They have no desire.
No. They want literally my 18-month-old will go and try to act like she's cooking and stuff. So we got her a little kitchen, and she'll just sit in there and just do it for hours. And it's just, they know.
Yeah, and what is she doing when she's cooking?
She's imitating her mother.
Yeah, well, she's imitating her mother, but this is nurture. She is creating food for her family.
Yeah.
She is producing. And so nurture, obviously we see it in terms of children, but I say nurture, maybe for lack of a better phraseology, is just an inherent desire to improve and to see things thrive and to see things grow. So my wife's love language is dirt.
Yeah.
She loves to dig in the dirt and to make, to see things grow.
Yeah.
Our house, I'm oxygenated higher than anybody in our church because there's so many plants inside our house.
Yeah.
There's just so much going on.
Yeah.
I think my wife is exemplary. Your wife is exemplary, and we have a lot of women in our church that are exemplary.
Yeah.
And we're all, we are all on a path to see ourselves recapture just biblical mandates and biblical norms and those kind of things. So think about the inside of my home. This is the Hall of Fire. So it's a little bit hard because I got swords and stuff like that. But my wife's input to seeing this house warm and inviting and being hospitable is all part of that inherent desire to nurture,
to take care of people.
Take care of people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more important than that. So there's a direct correlation between leading and helping and providing and nurturing and protecting and giving life. Mm-hmm. These things are parallels. Mm-hmm. They're different, but we see the similarities, like they're involved in the same things.
Yeah.
And so for me, as I have the responsibility of provision, my wife takes that provision and then she turns around and she nurtures our home with it.
Yeah.
I bring home the dough, I bring home the bacon, and she takes that and turns around and just multiplies it and turns it into nutritious meals that end up nurturing me and my family.
And the clothing that we wear and the everything that we are looking at, the smells in the home, everything.
Yes.
She takes what little I give to her that I've worked hard for, and she makes it into, just brings life into everything that she touches.
Yeah.
That's what. So I'm putting that forward, and I'm using my wife as an example, but this is what women should be desiring to do. It's what they should be preparing to do. So they can be doing this. Like your daughters, they're doing this in the home even now.
Yep.
And everything that they touch, they're learning from your wife. They're learning what it looks like to multiply.
And my 8 and 9-year-old made supper last night. I got home and it almost burnt, but it didn't. You could tell they scorched it just a little bit. But they made supper all by themselves, the whole thing.
Yeah, that's
from scratch to table. They did it, and so it's that they're capable and they love it and they're excited and you praise them for it. I've often said my daughters fight. It's getting better now, but they used to fight over who would make my coffee.
Yeah.
So when I would get home, if it wasn't late, I would want coffee, and they would every time they would beg to be the ones to make my coffee. They love it.
Yeah.
They love doing things that they know brings me joy, and they do that. And it's the same for the whole family. Yeah.
So in Proverbs 31, when we see the woman, she's not worried because her household is clothed in scarlet.
Yeah.
Because of if it's going to be cold out, they're warm because of what she's made.
Yep.
So just think about the domestic arts that women involve themselves in terms of making and producing. It can be the clothing, it can be the food, it can be the adornment, it can be all of that. I would put that all into this category of just an inherent desire to nurture. And feminism comes along and they kill that.
Yeah.
They want to sterilize that and create in a woman. I don't
think they kill it. I think they pervert it.
Sure, yeah, they twist it around and they focus it in different. Yeah, that's a better way to say that.
So you'll see feminists act like they're nurturing little children by, promoting them transitioning their gender. Little boys whacking their penises off. They'll literally, and you'll see them. They get so upset. You see these women when we go and preach the gospel at these places, which we may be going Saturday. We not sure yet, but we go and preach the gospel. You see these women get so angry and so defensive, and so they're trying to nurture their children. It's perverted nurture because they don't have men to lead in all these things, and they're not trusting in Christ. They're not reading the scriptures. They're not believing these things. Their vision and their minds are so perverted that they think they're nurturing children by protecting them from someone who's asking them not to cut their breasts off.
There's probably lots of examples that we can point to that. We should do a snake on beauty. What is beauty? Because beauty has been warped and the arts have warped it. I went through we were in Washington, D.C. here recently and went through one of the Smithsonian museums of art. And it was obligatory. They had to have a section of modern art. Yeah, the comparison between it's more than retarded. It's disgusting. It's disgusting what people put forward as art. And so a woman who nurtures, a woman who is there's an attractiveness and a beauty that she produces. She herself looks beautiful. Yeah. The way she cares for herself, the way she looks, the elegance. There's a objective, I think it's not subjective, an objective beauty that is distorted by these ideals that come in and twist this, that we get goth and get ugly and get things, and people think, well, that's pretty. And no, it's not.
Well, what we believe translates to what we do.
Yeah.
Doug Wilson says our theology comes out our fingertips.
Right.
And it does. And so what you believe influences what you do, what you look like, all of those things. So it's just a fact of life. And so this is why if you go to a gay pride rally, it will literally be the ugliest people you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's because they were necessarily born ugly. I think it's because they are so perverted. It just makes everything ugly.
Yeah.
It does, because they're fighting nature, and they refuse to embrace how God made them. And over time, it just makes orcs.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was free.
That was free. The orcs.
Yeah, the orcs.
Well, I don't know if we've had any orcs
up on feminist rally orcs.
All right. So the third category then is they produce life.
Yes.
Whereas men protect life, protect those that have been given to them. A woman actually creates life.
Yes.
And that is uniquely a woman. She has a womb to do this. And so that to answer the question, are women baby makers? The answer is
duh.
Yes,
they are.
Yes, they are baby makers. God has designed them to do this. And it's glorious.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing that you can take corn, eat corn, or chocolate cake, or whatever, and your body is producing a baby.
Both of those things are bad for you.
My sons were created out of watermelon. My wife just craved watermelon. So that's
funny.
Yeah.
My wife usually doesn't crave stuff, but it's obvious when we look at a woman. Women are made to have babies, to make babies. They have a womb where they can grow a baby, where they have the ability. With a man, they can conceive a baby, grow it in their womb, give birth to that baby, and then turn around and feed it with their body.
Yeah,
like they're made for babies.
Yes.
They're just made for it. And so this idea that it's a lesser thing for it's. You need to be checking spreadsheets and organizing spreadsheets like for some giant CEO somewhere. That'll really be fulfilling.
Instead
of producing life, and souls and training them and discipling them. Like it's
our culture's ridiculous that it has created a space where women think that to be of value in this world, in this culture, to have ministry, to have those kind of things, that they need to put aside how God has made them to go and produce a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Or to be a secretary, to answer the phone.
Yeah.
Or let's be even more glorious, to to be
run a giant company.
Be a CEO, or be a pediatrician or something like that. Those things are not necessarily wrong categories. I mean, the business needs to happen, those kind of things. But
when they're put in competition,
there's no competition. There should be no competition. Yeah. A woman should absolutely desire to create children.
When it goes back to the perversion, we have absolutely brainwashed a whole generation of women that this is true.
Yeah.
And they bought it, hook, line, and sinker. And so...
And not just the women, the men have too.
Oh, yeah.
Many men have bought into this as well.
100%. But you think about the dinks, that movement,
Dual income, no kids.
No kids. Dual income, no kids. It's the most aptly named thing ever, because they are
you're
dinks.
Total dink.
You're a dink.
Dink is...
Yeah, I think about these people. They're working their career and their job and all this stuff, and they have their set of superficial friends and whatnot. And what do you do at the end of your life? I don't understand what any of these people are. I can't conceive. It's kind of like when people get tattoos young. And I'm thinking, you thinking about what that's going to look like when you're 70? Like,
all stressed out.
Have you thought about that? But in all seriousness, like, are you thinking about when you're 70 in the nursing home, or 75 or 80 or whatever it is,
and have no one?
You got nothing,
you, and no one
cares. Your coworkers will not care.
Yeah,
they won't remember your name. And you did all that for what?
Yeah, our culture is there's so much that has happened to it that makes this a challenge. One is the nuclear family, husband, wife, 2 kids, or 1.5 kids or whatever. You got this small group. Well, those kids don't even replace the parents themselves. And what ends up happening is, because we have such an individualized culture and there's no heritage or household understanding anymore, those kids then marry and they move off, and it's just constantly atomizing, better word.
Yes.
It's splitting up. And so there's no continuity, there's no help. So you end up, this is the whole advent of the nursing homes in different places, that you need somebody to nurture and care for the elderly. We're far afield here, but it leads to that.
Yeah.
So women are baby makers. That's actually put out as a pejorative. You just think that women are baby makers. I don't just think that they're baby makers. That's
so insane.
Stupid characterization. That is literally what God has made them to do. Now, there are women that can't have children. God has providentially stopped them from having children. It doesn't stop the heart from wanting children and nurturing and desiring children.
And that doesn't change the fact that women are baby makers.
Yeah. So I just a shout out to those ladies that, and especially ones that even in our fellowship, we've had many ladies that have come and have been either infertile, or the couple themselves is infertile, and it's difficult for them to have children. We love you, and we pray for you, and we grieve with you, and we rejoice for you. And when you do find, we've had people answers to prayer. They've had children.
100%. And we do grieve.
Yeah.
This is not like, oh man.
Yeah.
You ain't got to worry about contraceptive, man. You just don't have to. No.
Hannah was right to grieve and to long and to pine.
Deeply. So much so that Eli thought she was drunk.
Yeah. She is right to do that.
Yeah.
And she is demonstrating instinctively what a woman desires.
Yes.
Now, that desire, you talked about, the children young making dolls.
Yeah.
They're from a young age. Girls desire children. They desire to nurture and have children, and to they think about their families.
Yeah.
It's a feminism introduction ideology that creates in a heart of a woman that she doesn't want children.
Yeah.
And it's a wicked thing that's happening to them, where I have seen women hate children or despise children or not want to be around children.
Oh yeah.
Because feminism has so overtaken them that they despise it. We know of people that have intentionally sterilized themselves because they don't want children.
Yep.
They don't want to continue And it grieves me
Yeah.
To hear those things. But that is learned behavior, whereas wanting children is instinctive and it's built in. It's a feature.
Yeah.
And then not wanting children and hating children and despising children, that is a learned behavior. That's an introduction of a virus into the heart of a woman that has corrupted her.
Yeah. 100%. So I mean, all these people, these kind of people, these feminazis, they will always want to rail against the colonizers and whatnot and talk about the indigenous peoples and that kind of thing. Well, all indigenous, like all people that whatever tribal people, you go to Africa, you go to, I don't care where you go, the women are going to recognize that they are made to make babies.
Yeah.
We saw this when Matt Walsh did his thing, What is a Woman, and went to Africa.
Yeah.
And he was asking them, what is a woman? And they were like, well, it's someone with a womb. It's someone who has babies. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so it's just so natural, basic level. It took colonizing feminazis to brainwash people into thinking that women are not supposed to have babies.
Yeah.
It's insanity. And so our call would be, ladies, to embrace it, to embrace the role of being a life giver. I mean, people would like if someone could make life, that would be considered a superpower.
Yeah.
I mean, if your Spider-Man could just make a life, that's superpower. It's unbelievable.
And here a woman can do that.
A woman can make life, and they act like it's less than her making spreadsheets.
All right, so I'm just thinking about young women and young men that are watching this here and listening to this. Men, this is what you're looking for. Women, this is what you need to strive to be.
Yep.
And men, you're looking for a woman who desires to be a helper.
Yeah.
You're not looking for a woman that is competing with you for career and position and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage a young man to avoid a woman who has a career mind that is outside of where you're.
That doesn't revolve around her home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She should be desiring to learn. So
her home should be her focus. Now, let me say this. Peter does not say, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way because they're a weak vessel. He says they're a weaker vessel.
Yeah.
Women are not supposed to be weak.
Right.
But it's natural. It's just built in that they're weaker than men. It just is what it is. The scriptures say it. But what you're not looking for is an incompetent, weak woman that doesn't have principle, that doesn't have, that is mentally weak or an emotionally weak woman. Like, that's not what you're looking for in a wife. You're looking for someone that is, that does have principle, that is strong, that is even, exercising and even physically strong for a woman. These are things that you're looking for. So when I say weak or weaker, you're not looking for a weak woman.
Yeah.
That's a recognition for men that women are weaker than them.
I just want to make sure I'm also clear on another thing here, is that when we're talking about home being the focus, that doesn't mean that they are unskilled or they don't know.
Stars.
So to be in the home and be industrious, there are industries and things that a woman can be doing that do not compete with her husband. I think a lot of women end up doing bakeries or they do things so they're providing service that people desire and they're actually making money. I've seen them where they are producing clothing. There's other industries as well. The stuff that we do in our home, we have doing design work and stuff.
Well, even the Proverbs 31 woman is buying and selling real estate.
Yeah, she's into real estate. There are things that people can do that are still. I don't think we're necessarily advocating that a woman cannot work.
No.
It's just there's a certain realization that in this stage of life, I need to be home with my kids and I need to be focused on my home. My home is always my focus. Even now, my wife, she works outside the home. I just don't. Yeah. She's such a high output woman. I do not have enough here in this
Sure.
house. We're empty nesters.
Her home's not neglected. Her
Yeah.
world revolves around taking care of you and her home
Yeah.
and y'all's mission together.
Right.
That's the goal.
Yeah. She's my wife, and this is our focus.
Yeah. Y'all are not just sleeping in the same bed at night.
Correct.
Your whole life, your mission, both of you, that's what your world revolves around.
Yeah.
That you're leading. in
So
that.
just
Yeah.
people are clear. I mean, we have like 50, 60 people in our home every week. And my wife, and she's making
Yeah.
this house hospitable.
That takes a lot of work to make that happen.
It does, but it's still not enough for my wife. That's
Yeah.
why she has a job outside of
Yeah.
of our home, where
Yeah.
she goes away for 6 hours every weekday,
Yeah.
and she's working and she's taking care of other things because I just don't have enough for her to do here.
Sure.
Even with having 60 guests here a
Yeah.
week, there's not
Yeah.
enough in this house. So I just wanted to say some of those things. So, young man, you're looking for a woman that desires to be home.
Yeah.
And she herself is working to be at home. She's industrious, thinking about being a home, in home. You're looking for a wife that is feminine and has that nurture and that care, the way she carries herself.
Yeah.
Women, this is what you're desiring to be or should be cultivating in your own heart, is those things. And then finally, you're looking for a woman who wants to have children,
Yep.
who desires and loves children. And one thing that we say a lot, and it's always worth repeating, is that children are wealth.
Yep.
And a wife who desires to have children and a husband who desires to have children, they are desiring to create wealth. And this is how they're subduing this
Yes.
world and
Yep.
and changing this culture again, is by producing image bearers that understand God's word and are desiring to be in the culture and to change the culture around them.
Yeah. Not only not only does the church grow when we have children and we disciple them in the Word of God and we teach them the gospel, the reality is that most of those children end up believing.
Yeah.
The vast majority of those end up being converts to Christianity.
Yeah.
No matter what your views are, Presbyterian, Baptist, whatever
Correct.
it is. Most of the people throughout church history that have been in the church were raised in the church.
You did a math thing in terms, so we can go out, and we do. As a church, we go out, we do evangelism, and we have seen a lot of people come to faith and come into our church and those kind of things because we're out there proclaiming the word in the corners. We're handing out tracts. We're doing the work of evangelism. But I don't know if you remember your numbers on that.
Yes. So I think if you have 6 children, and they have 6 children, and they have 6 children,
Right.
and that goes on. I want to say that if it's 7 or 8 generations with an 80% conversion rate, worked out to 56,000. I can't remember the exact numbers. What the 56,000 was what I came up with.
And hence in so many generations.
Yes, in so many generations, that would be with an 80%, which I think it's higher than that if you're faithful, but an 80% conversion rate to Christianity. You're talking about one man and one woman being able to we're talking influencing
Impact.
56,000 people
Yeah.
that are Christians, in just a few generations. And so
I forget the population of Shelbyville where we're at, but it's not
that.
It's not even that.
Yeah.
And we're talking about cities.
That's like
and-
Shelby County.
Yeah, that's Shelby County.
And that's just in a few generations. So the effects can be unbelievable. So you think about, the Amish, the way that they've grown in America. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
They do it. They're having babies and they're training them and they're teaching them and they're being faithful. And
So households, that's one way in which the gospel is going to perpetuate and go out. That doesn't negate the duty of proclamation.
No, not at all.
And the church's role.
It supports it because then there's going to be more proclaimers.
Yeah, something we didn't talk about. I know we probably want to handle this on a different, do this on a different area. But when we think about fertility and babies and being a baby maker, one thing that we advocate pretty strongly for is that young ladies should not be on birth control.
Yeah, I think we need to do an episode on birth control.
Let's do it, but let's also just talk about that real quick here. Is that birth control is a lot of people take birth control because the culture is telling them to take birth control. Well, you know if something happens if you have unprotected sex, as though there's no control. I think as Christians, we are proclaiming virginity and abstinence for our young ladies and our young men. We are advocating for monogamous relationships and saving themselves, and we're teaching the young men how to fight the lust and desires and the sexualized culture around us. And similarly, we're advocating for the women to remain pure, those kind of things. So birth control is often put forward because the world says, well,
they're going to do it.
You're going to do it, and so you got to have it. So I would reject that. It also tells you, you can go on birth control, you can go on the pill, it's going to help with acne, or there may be some different benefits that people think that they need to go on birth control. Don't do it.
So hormonal birth control drastically raises your chance of committing suicide because it makes women depressed because it's manipulating your natural hormones.
Your hormones. And it's also ruining the baseline.
Yeah.
So there are women that, have monthly difficulties that are pretty challenging for them. Well, you still got to be kind and gentle. Yeah. You still have to fight through those things. And so a woman needs to learn how to control her emotions and control her reactions and not to have those kind of things happening to her physically.
Getting rid of her period's not the answer.
That's not the answer, is just to cut out the period, because what you end up doing is you may be leading to infertility and cutting yourself off and denying your husband the right to children and the wealth that you would have. So we'll talk more about this.
We'll talk more about that. But my statement about it creating depression, it says it on the box.
Yeah.
It literally, it's like, here, take this for acne. You may, chance of a heart attack. That's what we're talking about. It's like there's some serious consequences to this stuff that no one's telling you.
Yeah. And then
and the worst consequence of all is that you might not have a baby.
Yeah. You're basically
if you take birth control, you might not have a baby.
Yeah, and I hate that it's even called birth control.
Yeah,
but
it's insane.
Again,
life control.
We'll talk more about that. The second aspect of that is competitive sports.
Oh,
let's just talk about that for a second.
Get started. Okay.
No, I'm starting. Let's get you started on competitive sports. Just real quick, because women are baby makers.
Yep. So it's about 16% of young ladies, I think, in high school age that do sports in high school. About 16% of them lose their period entirely.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they're being pushed like men to be competitive. And I would argue women are not made for that.
Yeah.
So my girls will not be doing competitive sports like that. I have no problem with them playing sports, tennis, whatever they want to play. But the aggressive competitive sports that's pushing towards, college scholarship or a career in sports, I think is one of the most harmful things for women. They're not made for it. So the woman can lose her period. You will see, if you've ever watched the Olympics, I've stopped because they're so horrific. But if you remember watching the Olympics, the runners, like the women have no breasts. They look like men. There's an androgyny that happens with the Olympics and these kind of the lifelong athletes. And it's horrific. They're destroying their bodies. So another thing you look at is injuries within high school or below women's sports is astronomically high, way higher than the men's. And you would think men are way more aggressive. You would think they would get hurt more, but it's not the case. So when you look at women's femur bones in their hips, women's femur bones are more angled because why?
Have babies,
to have a baby. A baby comes out of her pelvis.
You know why?
Yes. A woman's pelvis is much wider than a man's because a baby doesn't have to come out of there.
Right.
And so a woman's does. And so there's an angle, and that creates injuries and it creates problems.
If she puts it under undue stress,
exactly.
Her body's not.
If she does things she's not made to do.
Yeah.
So my wife playing high school basketball, church league. This was not like a big deal. And she still tore up her knee, 4 knee surgeries, kneecaps about the size of a quarter right now. Like her knee is destroyed.
Yeah.
And to this day, I can't run with my wife because of that. We can't, we walk, but even hiking is limited. We're limited on what we can do together.
Yeah. So that's actually just an accident. So we could have an accident dancing or running or something.
Way less rare. It's when it happens is when you're pushing them in competitive things that they are not made for.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, those are just two little caveats or things that I wanted to put out there in terms of baby making and just making sure that women are aware of those things, and that our counsel would be, don't do anything that's going to prevent you from doing these three categories.
Yeah.
And recognize the ideologies that are pushing you in the directions, pushing you towards careers that are outside of the home, that compete with the home. Be cautious about that.
Yeah.
Anything that is uglifying and just destroying your desire to nurture, or twisting your desires to nurture, and then anything that's preventing you from wanting or having children, you need to be really suspicious of those things, because the enemy's objective, if he can't sterilize you, abort your children, is going to warp your mentality about the reproduction of image bearers. He's definitely at work.
Well, and so you think about it. So obesity makes it hard to have babies.
Yeah.
And also when women are like all worried about being like as thin as a rail and no body fat, well, you also can't have babies, because if you don't have a certain body fat ratio,
women are meant to be soft.
Yes, they're meant to be soft.
Their
breasts are soft.
Yeah, they're not meant to be pencils.
They're not to be chiseled.
Yeah.
Like men. And where you can see the ripples in their arms. It's like, no, that's disgusting. That's not natural for women.
Yeah. Anyways, you evoked, when you said obesity, you evoked the fearful comment about losing weight. But I think we as a culture, we need to lose weight. Women need to lose weight. Men need to lose weight, because it's a health issue.
Obesity is out of control.
It's out of control in the States, and it affects a lot of things.
Just yesterday, I saw a group of kids, and there's several of them gobby fat. And it just makes me angry at the parents, because they're just doing it to them.
Yeah, and I'm angry at the culture, and I'm and there's a lot that goes into that. But anyways, all right. Well, we've talked quite a bit, and I know that we're gonna hit this topic again and again as we go through it. If you have a question that you want us to look at, or some feedback from this episode, feel free to reach out to us at snakeonthetable@gmail.com. Of course, comment sections, any place like that, you're welcome to open up a dialogue, and where we can, we'll interact there.
Yep. See you next time.